Welcome to AW360 Live at Advertising Week New York. I'm BJ Smith. I have with me Dave Otten of JW Player. Welcome.
Thanks, a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about what JW Player does.
Yeah, JW Player has been around for almost a decade now, but our business is we provide video technology to professionals, primarily media companies, to help them do three things with the video. One is just purely to deliver video to mobile, desktop, etc. Two is to use data that we collect across our footprint to help them grow audiences, more engaged audiences. And the third thing we do is to use our technology and data footprint to help them drive better monetization of those audiences.
Okay. You know, as marketers, we are hungry for data that we can use.
Yes.
So how does JW Player go about collecting data? What sort of data do you use and how do you?
Yeah, one of the unique things that we have, and this has happened over 10 years, we started as an open source video player. You know, YouTube's initial player was the JW Player way back in the day. And so what we began over time is began to build, using our technology as the Trojan horse, if you will, to build a network of publishers that were using JW Player. Mm-hmm. From that network, we began to collect all sorts of really interesting insights. So we can see what a person watches on one site, like a Vice who's a customer of ours, and then later in the month they might go to a Pop Sugar or a Hearst property who's also a customer of ours, and we can see what content they're watching, how much of that content they're watching. We can see things like, was an ad delivered? Did they engage with that ad? We see all the metrics around viewability. So for advertisers, we care a lot about whether they're actually delivering an ad against that piece of video content that is viewable. So we see all of that because we are the player itself. Importantly, we see it at scale. So the JW network today, our player is live on over 300,000 sites. I mentioned a couple a second ago. Each month, we see 20 billion video views go through the JW Player, and 1 billion people go to those 300,000 sites to watch those, or to generate those 20 billion views. So outside of Facebook, outside of YouTube, no one in the world of video has as much scale or footprint than JW. Importantly, we have it across hundreds of thousands of sites on a distributed basis, which is incredibly powerful in how we can deliver value to marketers as well as publishers themselves.
How do you even begin to crunch the numbers on 20 billion views?
It's hard. We collect something like 30 to 40,000 data points a second across the network. That's in the area of Twitter. I think the hardest problem, once we've built the network, it is sort of cutting through the noise, because you do collect a lot of garbage. What we decided to do is talking to our customers, talking to the ecosystem, like what matters most. So understanding content, what the content is, engagement of content is a critical factor that we think a lot about. Understanding viewability and all sort of the quality metrics around size of player, that matters as well. Understanding length of content and what length of content does best in terms of getting the most people to watch an ad, that matters as well. So those are the areas we tended to focus on, because because we are the player on these pages, we can see so much stuff. Focusing has been the biggest thing.
Yeah, the length of ads has been something that's really interesting, and I didn't prepare you to talk about this, but have you found like a sweet spot in ad length?
It depends. This is one of the things. I have a panel a little bit later that I'm moderating. This is one of the things that publishers, our customers, are always testing. So for some customers, like in mobile environments, for example, short form or short length ads, the 6-second ad is becoming increasingly popular and has helped fill rates there. So that's been a big deal on that front. And other types of content, sort of your more standard 2 to 3 minute length of content, your standard 30-second pre-roll matters. And as you go to sort of longer form broadcast type content, we've seen all stuff. Ad pods, where you have the traditional mid-roll, multiple ads within a pod. The thing that we see a lot of as well is sponsored content. So, having the advertiser or brand be a partner to the content creator and using that within the piece of content itself. But it really varies by device, it varies by content type and content length. We've seen all types, but still to this day across our network, and we see about 3 to 4 billion ads a month go through us. Wow. It's primarily still the 30-second spot, but that will change over time.
Wow, okay. So at 11:15 this morning, so that's in a few minutes, about an hour.
This is my warm-up.
This is it, get the voice going, get the adrenaline going. So you've got the panel that is how to become a video-first business. Yeah. And how do you define a video-first business?
I think it's hard. I mean, it's really funny you mentioned that question, because during our prep for the panel, Business Insider, which is one of the participants on the panel, they said, we're not a video first company really, but we're using video in order to tell the story to the user, and that's a format that's very compelling. So it's really hard to define is the short answer to your question. But I think increasingly what we see and what we encourage a lot of our customers to do is to put content sort of first and foremost. And to my mind, that means when I come to a mobile site, a mobile app, go to a web-based site, it's all about where video is displayed, top and front and center, sort of being the dominant place for an end user to look.
Right.
But it really matters and really depends based off of the type of site there is. Business Insiders is a news site of which video is a part or a way that they communicate. Others like Little Things, who is on that panel, video is everything they do, and they complement that with articles around the topic. So it's hard to define, but certainly the presence of video players across so many different platforms and sites, I think almost every company in our industry today is becoming a video-first business. They have to.
I'm curious, how do you feel about content that is written content, but it uses a video ad on top of it?
So that's sort of the outstream side of things. There's companies out there that have built reasonable businesses. I think that experience matters to advertisers. And so if I'm reading an article, a player is injected with an ad-only piece of content there. Yeah. I think quality matters in our mind, and we always encourage our customers that quality matters. So intent to watch is the important thing.
Right.
You can argue that the intent to watch in an outstream type ad like you described is not there. And what you see the market doing on the advertising side is the amount that an advertiser or brand is willing to pay for that content or that experience is decreasing over time, or your fill rates are at a lower percentage. And so what we think will happen with those types of units, the thing that those types of units have done is they've created inventory, right?
Right, sure.
We think what will happen, I think a lot of partners in that area are thinking is, okay, how do we package a player with relevant content and an ad?
Yeah.
And that actually, we think actually complements that reading experience much more effectively than a lot of the stuff you see on the outstream side today.
Yeah, just my personal preference is if I'm going to a website to read an article, I want to read the article and not have the video in my way, but I'm much more receptive to a video ad if I'm there to watch a video. So,
it's an interesting point you make, in Little Things, which they will be on our panel. They've wrestled with that problem. What they have done very, very successfully is they've actually, and it goes against what would seem obvious, but they actually have the article come up first,
right,
and they put the player at the end of the article that complements the experience. And what they've seen there is much higher click-to-play or starts of video, much higher engagement. They're making more money. That's a really interesting example, and I hope Justin, who's on that panel, will share some of their experiences with that sort of presentation to users.
Well, great. Dave from JW Player, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. We'll be back with more AW360 Live from Advertising Week New York.